My dad kicked me out from our trip's family vacation, said I was a burden, so the step I took after made him lose far more than he imagined. It started about 1 month before my family's trip to Hawaii. I was on a video call with my mom, sister, and dad when they casually mentioned their plans. At first, I was excited because I thought we were all going together. They talked about beaches, luau's, and snorkeling, all the things I dreamed of doing. Then I noticed that no one was including me in the conversation. "Wait," I asked, cutting them off, "when are we leaving?" The mood immediately changed. My mom's smile faltered, and Megan, my younger sister, looked away as if she suddenly found the wall behind me super interesting. My dad cleared his throat, and I knew something was wrong. "Actually," he said, "we didn't book a ticket for you." At first, I thought he was joking. "What do you mean? Why not?" My mom jumped in, trying to smooth things over. "It's nothing like that. We just thought you'd be too busy with work, with how much you've been doing lately. We didn't want to stress you out." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Sure, I was working a lot. I was working 2 jobs and saving up to move out, but it wasn't impossible to take time off. I told them that. I even said I could book my own flight if it was about the money, but my dad cut me off. "It's not about that. We just thought it'd be easier this way. No offense, but it's a family vacation, and you've been so focused on other things lately. It's not like you can drop everything at the last minute." "That doesn't make sense," I shot back. "Why didn't you at least ask me first?" "We didn't think you wanted to go," he said with a shrug. "It's no big deal. You'll survive." It felt like a slap in the face. My own family was going on the vacation of a lifetime, and they didn't even consider including me. Not even an invitation. Megan looked uncomfortable, like she wanted to say something but didn't know what to say. My mom mumbled something about how it would be easier not to have to work around my schedule, but I was stuck on what my dad said: "You'll survive." After that phone call, I sat in my apartment, trying to convince myself that it wasn't as bad as it felt. Maybe there was more to the story. Maybe money was tighter than I thought and they were too embarrassed to say so. Or maybe they really thought I was too busy. I tried to give them the benefit of the doubt, but it didn't take the sting out of it. Then they went to Hawaii, and I saw the pictures. There was nothing tight about their budget. My dad posted a photo of himself lounging at some fancy resort, holding a cocktail with a little umbrella in it. Megan sent me a video of her swimming with sea turtles. My mom texted me a picture of the 3 of them smiling in front of a waterfall. No one even mentioned my absence. When they got back, I didn't want to bring it up right away. I thought I'd wait until they said something, gave me an explanation, something. But they didn't. At least not until dinner 1 week later, when Megan casually dropped something that changed everything. By the time they got back from Hawaii, I'd already decided not to ask about the trip. If they wanted to talk about it, fine, but I wasn't going to beg for details about a vacation they had deliberately shut me out of. The first few days were radio silence. Then my mom invited me over for dinner, saying something about how it had been a while since we'd all sat down together. I thought it would be awkward, but I said yes. When I walked in, everything looked normal. My mom was setting the table, Megan was scrolling through her phone, and my dad was sitting on the couch, watching a sports recap. No one seemed particularly upset or guilty, just their usual selves. Dinner started well, small talk. Megan complained about school, and my dad grumbled about a neighbor who parked too close to his driveway. No one mentioned Hawaii, and I wasn't going to. But then Megan started talking. "Oh my God, the snorkeling was so cool," she said out of nowhere, grinning as she turned to me. "You would have loved it. Really, the turtles got so close I thought one was going to hit me." I froze. My fork clanked against my plate, and my mom shot her a look, but it was too late. "What was your favorite part?" Megan asked, obviously not reading the room. I didn't even know how to answer. My mom quickly jumped in. "Megan, let's not—" "It's okay," I interrupted. "Megan, what was your dad's favorite part, since he was the one who decided I wasn't coming?" My mom froze, but Megan didn't. She looked confused for half a second before blurting it out. "Oh yeah, Dad said he thought it would be less stressful without you. Like he didn't mean it in a bad way, just, with your schedule and everything, he thought it would be easier not to have to worry about—" "Megan!" my mom snapped, glaring at her. But I didn't care about my mom's reaction. All I could focus on was my dad, who was sitting there like nothing was happening, picking at his food. "You're unbelievable," I said, looking right at him. He finally looked up. "What's that supposed to mean? You didn't want me to go. You couldn't even say that to my face." I had to hear it secondhand at the dinner table. "That's pathetic." His face immediately turned red. "Watch your mouth, don't talk to me like that." "No," I said, shaking my head. You're being selfish. You didn't even think about how I would feel. You just wanted to have your little trip without me, and now you can't even admit it." That's when he lost it. He stood up so fast his chair scraped the floor. "You don't call your father selfish," he shouted. "You think you can talk to me like that in my house? If you don't like it, you can leave." Before I could answer, he stormed out of the room. A second later, I heard a door slam upstairs. I thought that was the end of it until he came back. This time, he had my things. One by one, he started throwing my clothes out the window, yelling that if I didn't respect him, I wasn't welcome. I stood there in shock for a second before I realized he meant it. My mom tried to stop him, and Megan yelled at him to calm down, but he just kept going. So I left. That night, I packed up everything that hadn't already been thrown out, put it in my car, and drove to a friend's house. I was so angry I could barely think straight, but the one thing I knew for sure was that I was done. Done paying their bills, done paying for groceries, done sending Megan money for school stuff. If they wanted to pretend I wasn't part of the family, fine, they could do it without me. I had no idea how quickly that decision would blow up their whole world. The first thing I did the next morning was cancel every payment I had set up for them. I don't think my family realized how much I had been covering for months. I'd been paying their electric bill, their water bill, even their internet. I helped Megan with her college textbooks and sent money whenever she needed something urgently. I wasn't rich by any means. I worked 2 jobs to make it possible, but I wanted to support her, or at least I did. That morning, I logged into every account I could think of and cut them off. I canceled the automatic payments for their utilities and canceled the grocery delivery service I'd been paying for. I even cut off Megan's monthly allowance. It felt petty, but honestly, I didn't care. If my dad didn't want me in the family, fine. They could handle everything on their own. I didn't hear from them for the first week. I stayed at my friend Eric's house and tried to figure out my next move. Eric kept telling me I'd done the right thing, but I still questioned myself. I mean, it wasn't Megan's fault, or even my mom's really. It was my dad's. Still, I didn't want to back down. Then the phone calls started. The first was from my mom. She left a voicemail, her tone much softer than I expected. "Hey, sweetie, we need to talk about the bills. I'm not sure what's going on, but the power company said they haven't received payment. Call me back, okay?" I didn't. The next call came 1 day later. This time she sounded more stressed. "Listen, I don't know what's going on, but the water's been turned off. I thought you were still taking care of it. Call me as soon as you can." I ignored that one too. By the end of the week, they'd lost patience. My dad called, and this time, there was no sugarcoating. "You think this is funny?" he said, his voice sharp. "I know you're the one who stopped paying. Do you have any idea how irresponsible that is? You're screwing over your own family for what? A temper tantrum?" I let him rant for a while before I finally replied. "I'm not paying for anything anymore," I said. "Figure it out yourself. You think we can just pull money out of thin air?" he shot back. "That's not my problem," I said and hung up. A few days later, I got a text from Megan. She was the only one who didn't seem angry, just confused. "Hey, can we talk? Mom's really upset. Dad's not saying much, but things are kind of a mess around here. I'm not sure what's going on, but if it's about the trip, I'm sorry. I didn't know you weren't coming until it was already decided." That text hit me harder than I expected. I felt bad for her, but I still wasn't ready to move. Then, out of nowhere, my mom called again. I almost didn't answer, but something told me I should. Her voice was softer this time. "I kicked him out," she said. "What?" I asked, not sure if I heard her right. "Your father," she repeated. "I told him to leave. He's staying with your uncle for now, but he doesn't live here anymore." That threw me. My mom wasn't the kind of person to make big moves like that, especially against my dad. "What happened?" I finally asked. She sighed. "I told him what you said, that you weren't paying for anything anymore, and, well, I realized that you've been keeping this house running, not him. He hasn't contributed anything in years, and he still acts like he's in charge. I'm done with it." I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to feel vindicated, like this was the justice my father deserved, but another part of me wasn't so sure. "You don't have to come back if you don't want to," my mom said, "but the door is open if you do. I just thought you should know." I hung up, my head spinning. I had no idea how to feel about any of this, and I didn't realize it yet, but the fallout was far from over. I spent the rest of that day pacing around Eric's living room, trying to process what my mom had told me. She had actually kicked my dad out. It didn't feel real. Eric told me to go back home. "It sounds like your mom is trying to make things right," he said. "Maybe this is her way of showing you that she understands now." But I wasn't sure. It felt weird, like I'd won some twisted power struggle I hadn't even wanted to start. And honestly, I wasn't sure I wanted to go back. Not yet, anyway. Then Megan called. "Can you come over?" she asked. "I don't know, Meg. It's still a little—" I trailed off, trying to find the right word. "Look, I understand why you're mad, and I'm not saying you're wrong," she said. "But things are bad here. Mom is stressed, and Dad is angry. He keeps blowing up her phone, saying she's ruining everything. I don't think she's taking it well." I sighed. "Fine. I'll come by tomorrow." When I got to the house, it felt like I was in a different place. The lights were dim, and the living room was eerily quiet. My mom was in the kitchen, staring at a pile of unpaid bills. Megan was on the couch and looked relieved to see me. "Thanks for coming," she said as she stood up. Well, you'll see." I walked into the kitchen, and my mom looked up. She looked tired, older somehow. "Hey," I said. "You okay?" She forced a smile. "I'm fine. It's just everything feels like it's falling apart all at once." I looked at the bills on the table. The pile was bigger than I expected. Electricity, water, internet, and a bunch of others I didn't recognize. "I'm trying to keep up, but your dad never handled any of this," she admitted. "And now that he's gone, I realize how much we relied on you. I should have stepped in sooner. I'm sorry." It was the first time she'd ever apologized for anything related to the trip or the mess it had caused, and as much as I wanted to stay angry, I could see that she was really struggling. "What are you going to do?" I asked. "I don't know yet," she said quietly. "Maybe I need to get more hours at work, or maybe I'll sell some stuff. I'll figure it out." It was hard to watch. I didn't regret cutting them off, but I hadn't expected things to spiral so quickly, and I certainly didn't expect my mom to be the one left picking up the pieces. That night, I stayed to help Megan with some school stuff and talk to my mom about how to budget everything. It wasn't easy, but I left feeling like maybe things would work out. Then, 1 week later, everything changed again. I was at work when I got a call from Megan. She sounded panicked. "Did you talk to Dad?" she asked. "No, why?" "He's here," she said. "He just showed up. He's yelling at Mom, saying he won't leave until she takes him back. Can you come over?" My heart sank. I didn't want to deal with him, but I couldn't just ignore it. "Yeah," I said. "I'm on my way." As I pulled into the driveway, I could hear his voice from outside, sharp and unrelenting. He was in full rant mode, pacing the living room while my mom stood there, arms crossed, her face a mask of exhaustion and defiance. "You think you can just kick me out like I'm nothing?" he yelled, his voice booming through the walls. "After all I've done for this family?" I stepped inside, and his eyes immediately landed on me, narrowing with contempt. "Oh, look who decided to show up," he said, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "The big shot. Are you happy now? This is what you wanted, isn't it?" I clenched my jaw, fighting to stay composed, but said nothing. The tension in the room was palpable, like a storm cloud ready to burst, everyone waiting to see what I would do. My heart pounded, but I forced myself to stay calm. "Dad," I finally said, my voice steady despite the chaos, "you need to leave." He laughed bitterly, a harsh sound that echoed in the small space. "And who's going to make me?" "You? This is still my house." "Not anymore," my mom said firmly, her voice cutting through the air like a blade. That seemed to push him over the edge. His face reddened, and he started yelling again, spewing words too vile to repeat, his hands gesturing wildly. The room felt smaller, suffocating, as his anger filled every corner. But before he could go any further, Megan stepped in, her small frame trembling with emotion. "Stop it," she shouted, her voice shaking but resolute. "You're acting crazy. Just go." For a moment he looked stunned, as if he couldn't believe she was siding against him. His eyes darted between us, searching for an ally but found none. Then, with a frustrated grunt, he grabbed his coat from the couch and stormed out, slamming the door so hard the windows rattled. The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by the faint echo of his fading footsteps outside. The house was quiet after that, but it didn't feel like peace. It felt like the silence before something worse. After my dad stormed out that night, the tension in the house didn't go away, it just shifted. It was like everyone was holding their breath, waiting to see what would happen next. I ended up staying the night because Megan asked me to. She said she didn't feel safe with the way things were escalating. The next morning I woke up to find my mom in the kitchen, already on the phone. I didn't need to hear the conversation to know who she was talking to. Her tone was sharp, and I caught snippets of legal rights and restraining order. "Is he still bothering you?" I asked as she hung up. She nodded and rubbed her temples. "He called 6 times last night." Left voicemails too. I didn't listen to all of them, but the ones I did. She trailed off, shaking her head. I didn't push. Instead, I asked, "What did the lawyer say?" She sighed. "They said it's tricky since he hasn't actually done anything violent. It's hard to prove he's a threat, but they're helping me file for legal separation. Once that's in place, we'll have more options." That was when I realized how far this had gone. My parents had always had their problems, but I never thought it would come to this. I spent most of that day helping my mom get organized, sorting through paperwork, making lists of things to do. Megan hovered nearby, quiet and worried. I could tell she was trying to keep it together, but it wasn't easy. Then, around dinner time, the doorbell rang. We all froze. No one was expecting visitors, and after the scene the night before, we were all on edge. My mom peeked through the window and immediately stepped back, her face pale. "It's him," she whispered. I stood up, my heart pounding. "I'll take care of it." She hesitated but nodded and stepped aside. When I opened the door, my father was standing there, looking disheveled. His shirt was wrinkled, his hair was messy, and he had this wild look in his eyes. "I just want to talk," he said. "You need to leave," I replied, keeping my voice calm. "Listen to me," he snapped, coming closer. "I know I messed up, okay? But this is my family. You can't just shut me out like this." "Nobody's shutting you out," I said. "You did this to yourself. Now go." For a moment, I thought he was going to argue, but instead he did something I didn't expect. He stepped back and pulled an envelope from his pocket. "Fine," he said, pushing it into my hands, "but you're going to regret this. All of you." Before I could say anything, he turned and walked away, disappearing down the street. I closed the door and looked at the envelope. My mom and Megan were watching from the hallway, their expressions a mix of curiosity and fear. "What is it?" my mom asked. "I don't know," I said and opened it. Inside was a single piece of paper. It wasn't a letter or a threat, as I had half expected. It was a receipt for a life insurance policy. The beneficiary, my mother. "Is this real?" Megan asked, her voice barely above a whisper. My mom took the paper and quickly scanned it, her face going pale again. "It's real," she said, "but I don't understand. Why would he give this to you?" Neither of us had an answer, but something about it didn't sit right with me. As it turned out, we had good reason to be suspicious. The life insurance policy sat on the kitchen table like a loaded gun. None of us knew what to make of it. My mom called the insurance company the next day, and they confirmed that the policy was real. My dad had been paying into it for years. "It doesn't make sense," my mom said for the 100th time. "Why would he do this? Is this some kind of guilt trip?" I didn't have an answer. Neither did Megan. The more we tried to make sense of it, the less it made sense. Things stayed tense for the next week. My dad's phone calls slowed down, but they didn't stop altogether. Megan went back to school, my mom started picking up extra shifts, and I went back to Eric's place, trying to give them space while keeping an eye on things. Then I got the call. It was from my dad. "Hey," he said, his voice strangely calm, as if nothing had happened. "Thought you should know I'm moving out of state. Got a job, some construction thing, just wanted to say goodbye. I didn't know how to respond." Okay. Take care of Mom and Megan, okay?" he said, then hung up before I could say anything. I wasn't sure if I believed him, but a few days later, my mom got a letter from him that confirmed it. He said he moved his stuff out of my uncle's house and was on his way to Arizona. And just like that, he was gone. It felt surreal. After all the chaos, the yelling, the drama, he just left. We didn't know what to do at first. My mom kept waiting for him to show up, but weeks turned into months and we never heard from him again. In the meantime, we all began to pick up the pieces. My mom got a better-paying job and started paying the bills on her own. Megan started working part-time between classes to cover her own expenses, and me, I stayed out of their finances. I'd help if they really needed it, but I wasn't going to carry them like I used to. It wasn't easy, but something shifted in all of us. For the first time in years, everyone was standing on their own 2 feet. Months later, on a random Sunday, we all ended up at the house for dinner. It wasn't planned. I just stopped by to drop something off, and Megan got home from school early. My mom cooked, we talked, and for the first time, things felt normal. At some point, Megan brought up the trip to Hawaii. "Crazy how much has changed since then, huh?" she said. I laughed. "Yeah, you actually pay for your own textbooks now." She threw a napkin at me, and my mom rolled her eyes, but we all smiled. The funny thing is, I don't think any of us would have chosen for things to happen the way they did. But in the end, it worked out. My dad's leaving forced all of us to grow in ways we hadn't before. Every man for himself, I guess. but somehow we're all better for it.